In the village of Belper, the days, they're pretty ordinary. But when night falls, they say even the air holds its breath. There's a legend there, a really chilling story of a spirit that wanders beneath the peepal tree, holding a baby. And she's forever asking this single, heart-wrenching question. Mera bachcha kahan hai? Where is my baby? This is the question that just hangs in the air in Belpor. It's the central mystery of a pain so incredibly deep, it couldn't be silenced, not even by death. So that's what we're going to explore today. This is a story that really dives into a mother's unending search, right? A bond that death itself couldn't seem to break, and a quest for something that was cruelly stolen from her. Okay, so our story begins with a woman named Anjali. She lived this life of quiet, constant suffering in the house of her husband, Raghuvir. Her home was basically a place where she was, well, buried alive every single day. Anjali went into her marriage with so much hope, but the reality was just grim. I mean, from the very first week, she figured out she wasn't seen as a daughter-in-law. No, she was a slave, valued only by the dowry she can bring. For 8 long years, her life was just this relentless cycle of torment. Her mother-in-law, Shantabai, would constantly taunt her about her meager dowry. Her husband, Raghuvir, would just laugh at her pain. But the cruelest weapon they had, the one they used against her every single day, was the accusation that she was barren. Ye banj hai, she is barren. This wasn't just an insult, it literally became her entire identity. In the house, at the village well, this cruel label just followed her everywhere, like a poison seeping right into her soul. But then, after all those years of despair, a moment arrived that should have changed absolutely everything. A single glimmer of hope in what was an otherwise completely dark existence. Anjali was pregnant. After years of abuse and loneliness, she felt this pure, solitary joy. For the first time in a very, very long time, she looked in the mirror and saw a genuine smile on her face. She thought, maybe now, maybe things would finally change. But that hope was just shattered instantly. Her family's reaction was so cold, so transactional. We only need an heir, they told her. You are just the vessel. Her heart just broke. She realized the baby wasn't a blessing to them, it was a commodity, and she was just the means to get it. And tragically, things only got worse. More chores, less food. Her body just grew weaker and weaker, a fact her family completely ignored. A doctor even warned her that severe malnourishment was putting both her and the baby in grave danger. And this brings us to the final, brutal night of Anjali's life. A night when all those years of cruelty just boiled over into an act of unforgivable violence. It all started over something so small, cold food. Her father-in-law threw the plate. Then her husband, Raghuvir, drunk and just full of rage, started hitting her. As she fell, her only instinct was to shield her stomach, to protect the life inside her. And her mother-in-law and father-in-law, they just stood there and watched in silence. She pleaded with them to stop for the sake of her unborn child. And then, right in the middle of all the blows and the shouting, a sudden, chilling silence filled the room. Anjali was gone. The family's reaction wasn't panic or remorse. It was relief. Achha hua, jhanjat khatam. Good, the trouble is over. Those were the words spoken over her body. No fear, no regret at all. Their next move was just pure self-preservation. To avoid a police investigation or village gossip, they decided not to do a proper cremation. Raghuvir carried her body out to the fields and buried her in a shallow grave. No rites, no prayers, no final words. Just cold earth over a mother and her unborn child. But some injustices, they're so profound, you just can't bury them. Anjali's story didn't end in that field. In fact, her real story was just getting started. So 3 nights after her death, a baby's cry started echoing through that silent house. Then, the villagers began whispering about a weeping woman under the old peepal tree. And finally, her own father-in-law saw her ghost in their courtyard, rocking an infant in her arms. Fear completely consumed them. They started sleeping in the same room, barricading the door. But you can't escape a ghost born from that much pain. One night, a cold wind blew right through the locked room. Anjali's spirit appeared right in front of them. Her hair was floating in the air as she held her spectral child and asked her final, haunting question. Mera bacha kahan hai? Where is my baby? Before they could even think of an answer, all three of them suffocated, unable to even scream. Now, with the murderers dead, you might think the story would end right there. But the silence that fell over Belpur wasn't one of peace. It was a silence of lingering, chilling fear. The villagers called in a tantric, an expert in the paranormal, named Haridas Baba. After he looked over the house and the field, he gave his verdict. This was a Garbhavati Atma, a pregnant spirit. And he explained that a spirit like this, one forged in betrayal and injustice, can never, ever find peace. Desperate, the villagers tried everything they could think of. They brought her favorite childhood doll and her favorite chocolates to the burial site. They even exhumed her body and gave her the proper cremation rites she was denied in life, just hoping to finally give her soul some measure of peace. But even after the revenge, despite all the rituals, it wasn't enough. The cold spot in the fields where she was buried is still there, and the legend of the weeping mother continues to be told in hushed whispers. So we end right where we began, with that one unanswered question. Where is my baby? It seems Anjali wasn't really searching for revenge or even for peace. She was searching for the life that was stolen from her, a loss so profound that not even death could end her search. And it just leaves you wondering, what kind of justice could possibly heal a wound that deep?